Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Cape Crusader, Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our new friend, Michele Abounader. We're here to break down When I Was Young, an LGBTQIA plus charity comic anthology. All profits are getting donated to the Trevor Project, which is going to benefit the youth, and that is such an awesome thing. I think this is the first time I've ever done an interview that was charity-based. And I love that. I love that so much. First and foremost, good morning. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I've got coffee. I've been working for a couple of hours already, so comics really don't sleep. I've been really, enjoying some Twitter discourse with my coffee and a couple of script reviews this morning. So I'm having a nice, I guess it's a good Friday. Happy Friday, I suppose.
Happy Friday. At least it's not rage filled. I know Twitter is pretty notorious for either setting being bad, very bad, fire everywhere, or good.
I think that there is a bit of rage in the Twitter discourse this morning where there's a lot of the hubbub about Marvel pride is kind of what's settled in on Twitter. I'm not sure if you've seen any of that yet.
Yeah, it seems like a bunch of hogwash on Marvel's end.
They're looking beyond the gay community for Pride Month this year.
How brave of them! How brave of Marvel!
they're just so brave. I'm so moved by the bravery of everyone at Marvel today.
Oh, I mean, thank you, Marvel. We needed it. We need it. Thank you.
I really needed the strength to keep going, and I'm really just happy at the positivity and strength and just the inspiring bravery of all the straight people at Marvel today.
And single-handedly, you are doing more than Marvel with this anthology, right? Like, you're just like, hey, Marvel, this is how it should be done. Like, what are you doing?
I think, I'm not trying to, make excuses, obviously, for anyone, but it's so hard these days to do anything that has, a balanced and happy diversity element to it, because there's always someone who controls the money that's not happy about it, and that person is often listened to more than someone who understands what people want to see, what people are going to connect with, what's quality and good storytelling, and what's actually going to be good. They almost they don't care if it's going to connect with people. They care if it's going to keep their most vocal fans happy. And I think in a lot of cases that leads executives to just make sort of copy paste hogwash kind of sanitized same old, because they know it's going to sell and it's safe, and anything that looks like it's taking a risk is not something that someone who controls the money wants to do. And that's art these days, baby.
It's so dumb, because that's what comics was about in the beginning, right? It's taking risk and pushing boundaries.
And I think that's why more creator-owned self-publishing is doing so much better, and it seems like it's better storytelling because there's less hoops, less people, less executives in the room, I guess, is the best way to say it. I don't know what else to say other than better creative decisions get made when there are less people that aren't creative controlling what they say yes to and what they don't.
It's insane. We have Natasha saying no rage, we're celebrating our allies. Phil Hound saying allies. And Natasha saying about time someone acknowledged the non-gays. Where's our month?
It's that one TikTok that's this is my friend. Was it my friend? She's an ally. Speak I don't remember. It was speak. And then she goes, ally, that TikTok. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm going to dig it up and I'll send it to you later.
I'm going to have to see it. I hate when that happens too. It's it's
where's
such a perfect example.
I know that they know what it is. Where are you? I know that they know that one. So
Michele, outside of raging, with Twitter discourse, who are you? How did you get into the indie comics, scene?
I'm just a silly little guy. I don't know. Here we go. Get your heathen ticker out. When I was just a lad, I read Generation X books. They were I loved Jubilee. I loved I felt really connected to the kids that were sort of ripped from their home because they were different and put into like a special little school. And I was like really into that whole situation of Generation X comics as a lad. And I kind of like fell off from comics. I was busy with all of you see here and, you know, school and work, and eventually like came back to comics later in my early adult life and started reading more indie things, realizing that comics could be more than superheroes and more than Marvel and DC and more than, you know, what I originally thought a comic book was, which I think a lot of people outside of, you know, outside of the know, they kind of believe like a comic book is a superhero thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time, of course, they are, and that's not knocking superhero comics. There's some really, really great ones that have, you know, great stories, blah blah blah. But the point is, I didn't really realize that comics could be more autobiographical, that they could be so gay and fun and about women with swords. And I picked up at my local comic shop I was reading, I don't remember what book I was buying, but the person working recommended Heathen to me and said, oh, if you like this, you'd probably really like this. And I was like, say no more. It's gay, I'm in, I'll buy it. And I was hooked immediately, and it was sort of one of the first books that I read that made me think like, maybe this is something that I could see myself doing someday, because I was always a writer. Actually went to college for creative writing with a focus in poetry, which is, you know, it helped me a lot in my job at the mall after college. But you know, now I'm finally sort of like using that knowledge. But so got really into more indie books. Heathen especially was like a big influence for me in my early career in comics, and thinking this was something that I could do. And then, you know, met Brent Fisher. Everyone knows Brent, I assume. Yes, we know Brent. And we put together Color of Always. And that was my first comic that I edited. My first comic that I wrote is in that book. And everything just kind of was a full, I'm going to call it a downward spiral, because I truly believe that anyone who loves editing comics is a little insane. So like, I feel like it was that was the beginning of my true downward spiral.
We have Fellhound saying Heathen Fan Club represent. Natasha, yes. This is the first I'm hearing of this. I was going to ask what came first, editing or the script, but it seems like both happened at the same time.
Yeah, they both kind of happened at the same time. And this is the first Natasha's hearing of this today, because I would probably say I'd probably say this comes up daily. Fellhound and I we're the Heathen Fan Club Platinum Edition presidents, co-presidents, I think. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Fell's doing some stuff that's like sort of better than what I've been up to in terms of my Heathen Fan Club membership. So I just really need to step up my game. But
I'm a big Fellhound stand here. I still have here, right by my Gundams, this piece they gave me. Fellhound, thank you so much. I cherish this. Anytime I talk Gundams, I always have to show this off.
Right by the Gundams. That's the best
right by
place
the Gundams.
For Fellhound merchandise. Absolutely.
We have J. Michael Miller hyped for this one. I'll drop by back after taking my oldest to school if you're still going. We're probably still going to be going around 10:40. I got to work at 11. Big shout out for Michele making this happen too. I know we were trying to figure this out. I'm like, hey, I know this is short notice. What are you doing tomorrow? Like before work? They're like, let's make this happen. I'm like, boom, baby.
I'm kind of like, oh, let's do another interview. I feel like my press tour from this book is not as dramatic as the Don't Worry Darling press tour. Like, I don't think like Harry Styles hasn't almost like spit on me yet. And like, there's not like Florence Pugh is not ignoring me drinking an Aperol Spritz, but maybe she is. Maybe that's the problem. Like, I feel like I've done like, I think like 9 or 10 interviews for this book. And I'm just so grateful anytime someone wants to talk about this. So I'm happy to make it work, because I appreciate you wanting to talk about this at all.
Absolutely. Well, I've actually have been wanting to get you on the show, I think, since Etheris. Like, I remember Ines talking about you, and I remember anytime they recommend someone, I want to get them on my show, because, like, Ines is my dude, and like my person for real.
Yeah, I love him so much. Anthology is such a great book. I have to start my Ringo campaigning. There's never a day off, right? Like,
Yeah, no.
I have there's much to do, and I think like news, like the stuff about Marvel Voices Pride Allies, the stuff about that announcement, I think it just sort of brings into focus more like what I'm trying to do,
Mhm.
right? Like when stuff like that hits and I'm like, oh God, this is where we are. It kind of like, it reminds me of like why I am so passionate about doing what I do. Like it's all memes and jokes and fun, but in the end, like the bottom line is really like, how can I make things better for people in the gay community?
Mhm.
And by extension, in the gay community, in the comics community. So I think like it's sort of it's a really good reminder for why I do what I do when stuff like the book that, you know, from henceforth known as Marvel Voices Pride Allies, like I like that's really like I just, so
Hey, well, single-handedly, you are bringing a spotlight to it, and I mean, let's get to it. So, what prompted you to come out with the anthology when I was young? Like, what was kind of like the basis of it?
well, the canon event that created that book in my brain was, I don't know, I was just feeling pretty down about stuff, and I was like, you know what will help me feel better about life is taking on a project bigger than any other project I've ever taken on and doing it without a co-editor and and really making this larger than life. That would, you know, that would really make my life easier, I thought to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as usual, glutton for punishment. But again, people that love editing tend to be a bit out there, maybe a little masochistic, and I kind of always think of life in terms of, you know, who would I have needed when I was younger? What would I have needed when I was younger? And
I love that.
that was kind of the basis for the theme for this book of, you know, what story would I want to tell myself when I was young? So even like the tagline for the book, like, this isn't about me, actually, maybe it is. That's literally just like me thinking about this book. Like, I think I came up with, I was just like driving in the car. I was like, well, this isn't about me. But I'm like, no, it kind of is about me. It's a little self-indulgent, but also I think like, I'm not saying most gay people are a little self-indulgent. I'm saying more so like we think a lot about what life was like when we were younger and what could have been different to make things a bit easier. Not so much better, but like helping us find like a pathway through. And I think a lot about how I'm just a silly little guy. I don't really have the power to be like the light at the end of a tunnel for anybody, but like maybe like a candle or like a flashlight or like just like a little bit of glitter, right? Like it can be a little bit better than this. Like I can't. So I think a lot about kids now and the youth in the gay community, and there's so much negativity and so much difficulty that they're facing, and the issues in the world are all very dark right now, like on like a very large scale. And I think that it's important not to forget kids that have no voting power, they have no rights, they're, you know, minors, and they're stuck in their homes, and they're stuck in red states in the US and places where they have like, they feel alone, and maybe they don't trust their parents, and they don't have adults that they trust, and they don't have, you know, their rights at school are starting to be taken away, their books are being taken away, like they don't know if they can trust their teachers. And I think about like, what can I put out into the world to let those kids know that like we have not forgotten about them. And sometimes it's just as simple as telling stories. If that's what we can do, then that's what we have to do, right? Like,
I love that. That is beautiful.
There's just so much happening, and I don't like. It's so hard to be a kid at all. Baseline, it's hard to be a kid, and then, you know, being a kid who's questioning your identity, questioning, you know, oh no, I'm gay. Oh my God, that's horrible. Like, is it? It's not horrible. It's not, well, maybe it is a little bit, but like, that's the self-loathing. But like, how different would my life have been if I didn't feel like my life could be over because of who I am? Like, how could I have had a different life if I felt like I could just be a kid when I was a kid. And I think those are thoughts that a lot of people in this book have had. And when I reached out to everyone to try to put this together, I think for the most part, everyone was like, yes, right away, whatever you want. And then like, oh my God, I have the perfect, devastating story about my trauma that I can put in this book. So I think it's all been sort of, I think people are expecting like a more difficult answer in terms of like, how did I conceive this, get the team together, ask people to do it, and like get the theme going. It all kind of, once it got going, it was kind of like snowballed, and it all got put together pretty quickly, not without stress, because I love to stress myself out. So it was stressful, but everyone was super excited to be involved and to talk about their trauma. So we
have Phil Sevi, sorry if I mispronounced that. Flopo stands unite. Natasha mending each other's broken inner child. My inner child is like a screaming raccoon in the trash. That thing is feral. That thing is feral. So I really love the thought and process that went behind this. They often say the advice you give is the advice you needed when you were a child or younger. You know, and so taking what you've been through and offering it in like a consumable and digestible, you know, format for others to read, to give them that, you know, that beacon of hope, to give them something to look forward to. I think that is a really beautiful thing. And this is spread across 100+ pages. This is a big book.
This is a lot, and it keeps growing because, again, I don't know when to be nice to myself. But it feels like, it really does feel like a drop in the bucket, right? Like there's not a ton that, like, I mean, I'm probably just being hard on myself and what we do here, but there's not a ton that, like, making a book, it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, right? Like making a comic, but I feel like things like Marvel Voices Pride Allies, like things like that really bring into focus the fact that, like, no, actually it's good to just keep making aggressively queer books, because the minute that we decide that that's not important and we stop doing that, like, who is going to put those stories out there, like, for people to find, especially when, you know, at like a corporate level, things are being sanitized at the level they are, unless it's like, unless we're put in like a little corner to like meet a quota. Like, self-publishing and continuing to tell authentic stories is almost more important now than ever, because we have to keep going. We can't just assume that people are more accepting now than they were 20, 30 years ago. Like, are they actually? I am not sure, because I think with social media and with media in general having such a far reach and everybody knowing what's going on everywhere, you have like sort of a lack of things happening under the radar because everyone sees everything. And we sort of joke about it now. Like, I've been rewatching Xena as like a new generation of people watches Xena because it's streaming on Amazon now. Like, thinking about how that show could not be made today. They wouldn't make 6 seasons of Xena today. They would absolutely cut that off after like half of a season, because, you know, people would be attacking it online. And that show was able to exist as it was because the media isn't what it is today. And there were little pockets of things that were able to exist without people paying attention to it, that they didn't want to pay attention to it. Like, sort of like, if you knew it was happening, you were excited about it, but like, it couldn't really exist today because of like a unfortunate awareness of everything that people have. So there's really no way to exist and have your own peace. So I think like it's important to keep making queer stories and telling them loudly and without sort of letting people tell you no. So I try to like do as much of that as I can.
We have Natasha saying faster, stronger, gayer than before.
Yes, absolutely. Every single project. I always joke that like everything that I do has to be like gayer than the last book that I make. So the book that I made before this one was Sapphic Pulp, which with Natasha was, you know, obviously it was a pretty gay project. I think we can all agree. Shell's in that one also. But this one I feel like, because of the charity element and helping the youth, it somehow feels gayer because it's a little more political, I think, taking a stance and making a donation and and getting, you know, as many people involved as I have. So I'm really happy to be at this point and making this book. I feel very like privileged that I was able to get the people that I've got to be in it too. Like it feels a little surreal. I'm very grateful for everyone who said yes to me for this, and I'm grateful that we're almost at 19 grand. Like I honestly, yes. This campaign has been one of the most difficult things of my life. I have slept very little. Self-care is at like an all-time low, and
what
most
is that
of my
at
friends
this point?
see it and they're very mad. Even my therapist is like, "Hey babe, we need to talk about your work-life balance." And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know her. And I'm like, I put my sunglasses on. I'm like, I don't know her.
Please stop attacking me, please.
Please. I came here to have a good time, and like honestly, I'm feeling so attacked right now. And it's just like me and my therapist on our weekly call. But like, I honestly, like, this has been such a labor, and there have been people supporting me from the start. Like everyone in the chat, pretty much my biggest cheerleader, like Philip, Natasha, Heather Antos has been, you know, had my back since day one on this book. When I was like, hey man, should I do this? Should I make this book? That's crazy, right? And Heather was like, no, do it. Make the book.
Make the book.
I'm like, just do it. It doesn't sound crazy. Just do it. It sounds great. Do it. Make the book. So like, I think it's really part of like being creative and making books and making comics and making anything really is having people in your life that when you throw out a wild idea, they look you in the eye and say, no, that sounds good. You should do it. Instead of saying like, oh, but this and this, like surround yourself with people that tell you to just do it, regardless of how much you know it's going to destroy you.
For everyone in the chat, I just dropped a link to this project as well as the Trevor Project. So if you're able to back or donate, we would love to see it. If not, put that on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you could drop a link. It's 100% free to do, and it costs you nothing. You know, help out the children, help out this project. You have nothing to lose. We have Felhan in chat saying love you with a big old heart. Let's go ahead and check out some of the creators on this team. I mean, there is a slew of them. How many creators are there at this point?
I don't know. I would have to do a count. I feel like I add new people like every other day because I'm losing my mind. I think I even have one more team to announce yet. I'm again running out of tricks up my sleeve, but 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 26. I think maybe there'll be like 28 or 29 total by the end of this. And I always say when I start a project, it's going to be smaller scale, smaller creative teams so that I don't lose my mind. And then by the end of it, I've just completely thrown everything out the window and descended into full chaos.
I love it. And I love how diverse all these creators are too. It seems like all shapes and sizes. I mean, you have people, you know, from DC to the indie community and everything in between. What was, when you were setting this up originally, did you have creators in mind? Like, how did you end up picking the creators you did?
Well, everything that I do in life is to get closer to heathen. No, that's a joke, but just put it on the ticker. I think like, I don't know if I really had anyone specific in mind when I started. I think that I knew I wanted to do this. I knew that I wanted to write a story to put in it. And I thought of people that I've worked with in the past and thought of people that I wanted to work with and people that I meet a lot of people at conventions. I talk to a lot of other people in the indie community that I just really admire. So I think like it started with people that I already have worked with that I know. Fellhound and Natasha, I think, were two of the first people that said yes. Fell was kind of like, oh, maybe I'm so busy. And I was like, please, I love you, please. And I begged and she relented. She's always down for something that is going to make people sad. So thankfully, she
very sad.
Jump in. Natasha said yes, obviously. And then it's always, Heather wanted to do interiors, sort of. She's kind of always wanted to say that she's done it, but like hasn't really said yes to doing that for anyone. And I kind of was like, hey man, wouldn't it be great if like you did interior art for this book. And I don't know. She said yes, I guess for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm excited because that's not something that she normally does. And same with Jadzia Axelrod is also drawing interior art for her story, which isn't something that she typically does. And, you know, many of the creators in this book have said, I'm doing something autobiographical, which isn't something I normally do. So this is sort of like, this isn't something that I normally do kind of book, which is a little funny in terms of, you know, if we're going to make some gay jokes, go ahead, take it and run with it. This isn't something I usually do. This is so unlike me. So I'm feeling pretty good about the team and like how people are sort of, they're being creative in ways that they aren't normally with their other published works, which, you know, makes me feel, I feel again grateful and privileged to be the steward of these strange things. People stepping outside of their comfort zone to make something new and interesting. And I think, you know, at this point, I think it's kind of a foregone conclusion. This is gonna fund. We're so close, and we're approaching. I'll just pay for the rest of it myself, and I'm comfortable with that territory. If it comes down to it,
I'll just do it myself.
I'll just do it myself if it comes down to it. But I don't think that's gonna be necessary. The support throughout this campaign has been so steady. Like we haven't really had, like, maybe it's just because I'm an absolute lunatic and have not stopped promotion and talking about it. And I've been, you know, really going nuts, just like talking about this book and getting people to talk about it. And, you know, some of the contributors and a lot of the people in the chat have been very vocal supporting this book, and any little boost, any retweet, any comment, anything is getting this out there, defeating the evil algorithm. Honestly, we feel, you know, Heather has gone on like a couple podcasts and talked about the book, and you know,
Richard, I interviewed him. He was the last person I interviewed before this one, and we were talking about it as well.
Richard Fairgray is quite the character. I love that guy so much. Like, he wasn't on the original creative team, but he cornered me in Vancouver at Fan Expo and was like, held a switchblade to my throat and was like, hey man, how do I get in your book? And that's absolutely not how it happened at all. But
probably eating a hot dog or something. That's very Richard.
He's such a character, and I couldn't be more thrilled to include him. His story is so interesting, and it's actually one of the few that I have completed pages for. I'm going to try to post a backer update today with some pages for people to see. And he's such a character. I'm so happy to have him here. His voice is so unashamed of everything, and it's so important to just, he's so himself unapologetically, and it's kind of inspiring to the degree that he just lives his life and is like, take it or leave it, man. And I need to surround myself with more people who live that way.
Is like one of the hardest working people I've ever met.
Oh, yeah.
For one, and for two, when I was going through a really dark spot in my life, he was like the light. He was like my he was like my boat in the stormy waters, keeping me afloat. And I was just so, I wouldn't say shocked and appalled, but like, Richard could get out of pocket here and there, and it's like he gave me some of some of the most insightful advice ever, and I was like, "What is life?" So let's go ahead check out some of these pledge levels real quick. So we have a digital PDF at 15, cover A at 25, cover B at 25, book and print cover A at 75 and B at 75. You just unlocked the glitter cover. How much is that going to come in?
I did. The glitter cover. Oh God, do you like how I have no idea? I'm so tired. I'm really sorry. Hang on, I have it up here. Hang on. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. The glitter cover at 40. And
awesome
it's cover
price.
A with glitter on it. So
awesome price. And then we have editing consultation from Heather at 250, and then you at 150.
Yeah, Heather's are gone. There is, I think, one left of mine. And then there were a couple things added. I think what's left there are, from Michi, who's one of the contributors of this anthology, there are a couple of commissions available that are traditional commissions, like they're
that's cool.
painting commissions for this,
Mm-hmm.
which is really cool. It's not something that's horribly typical these days to be able to get traditional art. So, and then there's a couple of stickers, a Trapper Keeper pronoun sticker, and there's a I Heart Shitty Fanfic sticker that's also now available.
And holographic prints. I always love anything that's like holographic and like shiny. Like,
I mean, I absolutely adore anything that's a little sparkly. So the glitter cover, I'm kind of obsessed with it. My printer, who's in the States, is working with me to get that glitter done well, and I'm really happy with the quote that they gave me. And that was a late addition because I was waiting for some numbers to come back, and I didn't want to hold the campaign up any longer to wait on the glitter. So I'm really happy that that's in there now, because I think that it's the best thing ever.
And another awesome thing before we back out of the campaign, right here, funding info, a minimum $3,000 donation to the Trevor Project has been built up at front. That's amazing. That is awesome.
Yeah, because again, it's me. We're doing this to hurt myself, basically, because obviously, like, we're approaching the point where if I didn't build in the donation, we would be funded, right? So, but again, it goes back to just wanting to say everything with my whole chest. Like, if I'm going to do a project and I'm going to donate, the donation, a minimum donation, is going to be built in to the original goal. Same thing with paying creators. I'm a big advocate for hiring people in the queer community, giving them employment opportunities, and then paying them. So there are some people that are donating their pages, but it was absolutely not an expected thing or a requirement of anyone, because it's tough out there right now. And I don't think I want to take free art from people, and I want to make sure everyone is getting compensated for their hard work. And that's good with me. I'm happy to be someone who's in a position to raise those funds to pay the gays now more than ever to make stuff. So
we have about 5 minutes left before I am going to have to be doing like 100 miles per hour to work. So with that being said, you're fine. I was just joking. But with that being said, if I'm late, they can deal with that. We'll have Side Duck confuse them. For anyone who's on the fence about backing, what would you like to say to them to kind of push them over that bump?
Well, I mean, don't you want to be an ally? Don't you want us to look past our own needs and praise you this Pride season? I think this isn't a book just for people in the queer community. These are stories about like personal triumphs and advice that I think we all need. And I think that it is deeply relatable to anyone who has lived a life. So I don't think that this isn't a book that's only for queer people to read. This is a book that is for anyone who has had any kind of struggle, any kind of mental anguish, any kind of feeling othered or feeling left out, feeling troubled or sad, anyone who needs a bit of inspiration. There's something here that I think anyone can connect to. So I think I would encourage people to consider having a copy of this around for your own self as well. It's not just for queer youth. It's really, I think, something that I need now as much as I needed it when I was a kid. So,
and I mean, think about all the times you guys are donating at Taco Bell or Starbucks or Walmart, even all those evil corporations where you round up and they just use that as a tax write-off. This is legitly getting donated to the project. You are actually making a movement with it. So back it. If you can't back it, share that link. Last but not least, two things before we wrap up. I always love asking for a piece of advice and then what you're consuming outside of creating. So as an editor, what would you say would be the biggest thing the writer can do to make their script, I guess, easier for the editor? I mean, like, what's like a basic thing you can do to make the editor's job like easier?
I guess it really depends on what we're talking about. Like, I'm trying to think of a good tip.
This is like my first time interviewing an editor, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask a good question, and I ended up asking the most open-ended one ever. My
one tip that I like to do, I like to give people, and I give this tip sort of to myself as a writer too, is I don't care how bad you are at drawing, you don't have to show anybody, but when you're blocking out your panels, kind of try to draw it a little bit so that you make sure that you're not putting too much action in one panel. Like I've read a few scripts lately where there was so much happening in one panel that it was actually like 5 panels as like one panel. And that's, I hate formatting as much as the next writer does. Like I want to get it all on the page. I don't want to be bothered with panel breakdowns, but before you have somebody, an artist or an editor, look at a script, make sure that you're not cramming too much into too small of a space, because it's not always going to work out the way that you want it to. So you don't have to show anybody those drawings, but it's not a bad thing to do. It'll give you a better understanding of how to show movement, and how to get that script to translate to a comic page.
And then real quick, just to read chat, we got Fellhound saying, I'm happy to make time for you. Natasha, getting super personal for this one. You're welcomed. And then Natasha, again, real allies open their wallets. So last but not least, what are you consuming outside of creating? You know, what books are you reading? What TV shows, video games, you know, comics, you know, give us the deets.
I don't have a ton of time to read outside of what I read for work. Unfortunately, like I really wish that I had more time to read. I need to start making time for that as like a person who loves. I have my backlog for reading is absolutely enormous, and I would like to read some things. I honestly think the last comic book I read was the Marvel, like the Women of Marvel book, which was something.
Marvel just needs to stop trying, it sounds like.
TV shows. I mean, I'm almost done with like a Xena rewatch, which has been really lovely. I love Catfish, that MTV show. I'm really into that. I'm about to start watching Delicious in Dungeon. Everyone in the chat will probably start yelling. An anime that is on Netflix and is gay, apparently, so I need to watch it. So I try to be well read on those things. I'm really looking forward to going to see Love Lies Bleeding, hopefully this weekend. I love Kristen Stewart, my king. Been playing Ghost of Tsushima on PlayStation.
Such a good game.
Really enjoying. I kind of call it like Assassin's Creed Samurai, because like that's what it is.
But a horrible game though, if you don't have a lot of time, because that game is long.
And I'm like limping through it, but it's so pretty and the music is great. But I also I tend to like listen to like Taylor Swift vinyls while I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima. It doesn't really fit, but like it does in its own way. Yeah, so I wish I had more time for gaming. I'm hoping to take a bit of a break after funding is over for this book, like at least 4 to 5 hours of a break, and maybe get a little gaming in before the next thing. Yeah, I wish I had more time to read, and I'm gonna start carving out a little time a week, I think, to try to read a bit of stuff that's not for work. As I'm an editor professionally as well as freelance, so most of my reading time is work.
All right, I gotcha. Hey, we got some love in the chat, of course. Fahan saying yes, Farsalee. Natasha saying Farsalee as well. I'm gonna watch Love Lies Bleeding. Yes. Awesome. This was such an awesome chat. Thank you so much for swinging by. Everyone watching, thank you all for hanging out in the chat as well. I hope you all have a lovely, lovely Friday. But most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.